Hi everyone, it's Paul here, excited to be with you guys again and just introducing the topic that I'm going to be covering for the next couple of weeks, and that is the TV show The Expanse. For those of you who have not seen it, I would encourage you to watch it. I'm not going to give away too many spoilers in this video, but as we go through, my goal is to highlight different parts of each episode that I really like when it comes to character and storyline and things like that. So it's not really a reaction video. I may be able to get some video clips of it to prove some of my points, but my goal is to go episode by episode and show you guys why I liked certain things, what I think the storytellers were trying to do in accomplishing telling their story. So I wanted to give just a quick overview of why I liked The Expanse, and then as we go through episode by episode, hopefully some of those themes and topics will be raised again. So first and foremost, The Expanse is all about really interesting characters. The story is also unique, obviously. There's a lot of really kind of mysterious things going on, especially in the first couple of seasons. There's a lot of mystery. The characters really are what drives this, because yeah, you can have this great, really interesting concept, right? The proto-molecule is really interesting. It's kind of a mystery in and of itself. And it's an interesting concept, but if you throw really boring characters or really terrible characters into that, you're still going to have a terrible story, right? You're going to have a terrible story because, yeah, the proto-molecule is interesting and there's all this mystery surrounding it, but if you don't care what happens to the character because you have no vested interest in them as a character or where they're going to grow or kind of who they're going to become or how they're going to overcome certain obstacles, if you couldn't care less, then, I mean, the story ends. And so one of the first things I immediately noticed when watching this show was the characters are really interesting. And there's lots of different ones. They're kind of inserted into the first couple of episodes gradually and in very unique situations, right? Unique positions. You know, you've got your detective, you've got your rising leader, so to speak. You've got some interesting companions for him, and you kind of are intrigued to see, okay, are they going to fit into like cliches, archetypes, or are they going to kind of do their own thing? How are they going to grow? And some of them you're not even sure about. Like for the very first, I'll be the first one to confess, Amos as a character, I was worried about him. I was just like angsty about him. I didn't really. He seemed like a kind of a villainous type character, if that's a good way to present it. But just he would sort of rub me the wrong way in how he interacted with other people, his lack of morality to some degree, his ability to just kind of do whatever needed to be done nonchalantly. That was definitely something I was a little worried about, but they would also throw in little hints of kind of what kind of character he could be. So that, again, that's really interesting, right? You got Amos, very interesting character that is supposed to be a protagonist with the main protagonist, but you're not really sure about him. And it goes all the way to, you have politicians, you've got all of these other characters that really add a lot of value to the show because they're very interesting. You don't know you don't know what's going to happen. And so, like, Holden, the main character, he is very reluctant. He's a very reluctant leader. They sell you on that from the very first episode, with the sort of the unspoken promise that they're going to show you how he turns into this really good leader. And so that's exciting. It kind of grabs you, and you want to, okay, how's this guy going to go from this reluctant, guy on this ice barge to someone who's willing to step up and take charge and be the leader that he naturally is. And you can see that really from the beginning, how he handles situations, his ability to be responsible, but he doesn't want that on his shoulders. So it's really interesting to see that. Another thing, aside from characters, that I really love about The Expanse is how they built the world, right? The world that all the characters inhabit, right? And not pertaining to the story, but really just world building, right? So you've got Earth, you've got Mars, you've got the Belt, and they don't just copy and paste everyone into those places, right? You don't have everyone looking the same, sounding the same, even same motivations, right? You've got like Earth, who it's just very built up. They've sort of just kind of destroyed the planet a little bit, or haven't taken good care of it. And obviously they're where humanity originated from, so they have this steeped history and tradition, right? And you see that right away. It goes along with their government, their politics, everything kind of fits into that. And then you move into Mars and you see them, and Mars is very militaristic, very like single-minded and focused, and it's really cool how they sell that, because they say, hey, Mars, when they went to colonize it and terraform it, they took the best and the brightest, and anyone who was having this singular mindset of, yes, I want to do something to make a world for my children or my children's children, right? So everyone has a singular focus, and so it would foster a society that is very utilitarian and very focused towards a goal that can accomplish anything together. And of course, they're a big military might in this show because of some of those traits and characteristics, which makes a lot of sense. And then finally, you have the Belters, which are a really interesting group, right? They're sort of like they almost feel like outcasts a little bit of the entire society of the solar system, and they don't really fit into any of those two main societies, right? Mars or Earth. They have their own thing, and they almost are proud of it. They've got this like, chip on their shoulder. They're like, we don't need the inners, as they call them, right? The Mars or Earth. They don't need them, and they would actually be better off without them, right? And there's sort of this chip on their shoulder, cocky kind of attitude. But also there's a level of oppression that they're dealing with. And you kind of see some of that and some of the unrest as the story begins to develop and grow. So some of the political aspects are amazing in this show, and it really sells it. It's not contrived, it's very organic, and it grows from someone sitting down and saying, okay, if I start from here, Earth, and I colonize Mars, and then Mars, you've got, resources in the belt, so they send people out to the belt to work, and mine and things like that. What would grow and develop naturally from that? And I think they did a really great job building that. And I think I want to look into that a little bit more as we go down the road after we do some episodes and looking at those and breaking them down. The final thing that I really love about The Expanse that they do well, and this fits in with world building a little bit, but it's a science fiction, and like any science fiction, there's a level of suspending disbelief whenever you watch or whenever you read, right? Because it is fiction, it's futuristic, and it's making assumptions about technology, about how the universe works, right? And so they do make some good assumptions, but they sell you on it. Right from the very beginning, they sell you, and they do it in such a way that it's very believable, right? There's like, again, just like the world building of politics, they go from point A to point B, and they say, okay, well, how can we make this believable that people can have, gravity on these spaceships, right? Because the technology would be very hard for us to figure out. And so they essentially do a kind of a combination of like magnetic boots to help people stick to the floor as they're walking around, and they sell that right away. Like you can see, and they'll point to it multiple times where you'll see the boots like light up, and you'll hear them click into place, which is really cool. It's a very good showing, not telling in the story. And then you also, develop and they grow this idea that when traveling at certain speeds and things like that, there's a level of artificial gravity. But we'll get into that later as we break things down. But it's just a really cool show. They do the science of it really well. The action sequences, there's no shields on the ships, so bullets are flying through. I feel like they got a really good grip on what it could look like for space combat and in those kinds of environments, vacuum environments. Really cool. They also really layer in, like, if you're living on a space station and there's war or unrest, turmoil going on, a real concern is protecting the station itself, because everyone's lives depend on it functioning well, or else everyone dies. So these are really cool things that they can place really interesting characters into and kind of see how it naturally progresses with their design of where the characters need to go as far as their personal growth, as far as progressing the story. And so that's an overview of why I love The Expanse, and I'm looking forward to getting into actually watching the first season, going through episode by episode, and just pointing out some of the things that I really love about it. I think you guys will love it too, and as you're watching, feel free to point out instances that you really loved or thought were great, or point to something that we see down the line. So with that, it was good to chat with you all, and have a great rest of your week.